A neighbor informed Gurim that Chaya had moved out a long time ago, so he decided to go to Yunsu's mansion instead. Meanwhile, at Father's place, his birthday celebration was underway, attended by many powerful figures. The main event, however, was scheduled for the following day, a formal dinner party with other vampire officers who were directly related to Father. There was a test one must take before this dinner. Father offers blood, which up until now has always been human blood, but this time she wasn't so sure. Rose decided to take one of the blood bottles that had been specially prepared for the main event. She had a plan, and she was determined to carry it out. That night, she also began writing a letter addressed to Leo, when suddenly she saw Yunsu inside the castle. She quickly brought Yunsu inside and asked why he was there. Yunsu asked her in return about Gurim's whereabouts. Rose noticed that he wasn't in his best condition, most likely due to heartbreak over Chaya. She thought it was a good time to run a test, so she gave him some tea to help him calm down, pretending that she would bring Gurim to him. She knew Yunsu was always alert and more inclined to poison others, but this time he would drink it. After taking a sip, Yunsu coughed up blood. Rose told him not to worry. She had only added a small amount, just enough to knock him out. Soon he passed out. This confirmed Rose's suspicion. The appetizer for this dinner wasn't human blood this time. It was vampire blood. Back at the mansion, Gurim found Jimino tied up. Jimino begged for help. Gurim asked who had done this to him, and as soon as Gimino mentioned Chaya and claimed he knew where she was, Gurim helped him and pulled the silver knife out. But the moment he did, Gimino snatched the knife and attacked Gurim with it. Just then, Han Chaya arrived. Gurim told her to run, but Chaya rushed in to help him instead. At that moment, Gimino had a vision. If he fought Chaya right now, he would lose. Deciding he needed to escape, he began to teleport. However, Gurim was already holding on to him, and Chaya quickly grabbed Gurim as well. As a result, all three of them were teleported together. Meanwhile, the young servant brought Yunsu to Leo along with a letter from Rose, instructing him to take Yunsu back to Gurim using the pendant. It was the same pendant Leo had once given to Rose, disguised as a gift. It was actually a GPS tracker. Rose had passed it on to Gurim. Yunsu suddenly woke up, grabbed Leo by the collar, and demanded to know if he was on Rose's side too. Leo kicked Yunsu off, telling him to drop the attitude since he knew Gurim's location. But Yunsu kicked him back anyway. Leo explained that he didn't want to help either, but he was only doing it because Rose asked him to. Then, checking the GPS, he froze in shock. The location where Jimino had teleported to was Father's castle in England, and his birthday celebration had already begun. In the past, the boy who had attacked Rose alongside Leo was Gemino, and the ability he gained that day was the power to see the future. When Father asked what ability he had received, Gemino experienced a vision of the future. If he revealed his power to Father, he would die. Terrified, he kept it a secret from that moment on and lived each day ready to pay any price just to survive. Now, in the present, Gemino attacked Chaya from behind. She asked him if he hadn't said before that he wasn't a vampire. He replied that she should never trust a vampire's word, because vampires always lie. Chaya then asked if he really didn't know how to become human, and when he confirmed it, she punched him hard across the face. Crying, she choked him by the neck and asked why they were all like this. At that moment, Gemino realized that the future he had seen back then was now. Meanwhile, Gurim's eyes fluttered open. The scene before him stirred memories of his father, and suddenly the fragments from that day he had long forgotten resurfaced in his mind. Chaya wasn't stopping, nearly killing Gemino, so Gurim screamed at her to stop. His voice snapped her out of her trance. Shocked by her own actions, she whispered that she wasn't going to do it. In response, Gurim embraced her, trying to comfort her. He gently asked if she had become a vampire, and when she nodded, he asked if she wanted to become human again. When she said yes, he told her that he could turn her back into a human. But because Gurim was injured, they needed to get out of there first. Chaya sat there, wondering if he was telling the truth. She had already been deceived multiple times by vampires and doubted if Gurim was just the same as them. But then she remembered the young Gurim, the kid who had always been by her side, and finally decided to trust him. When they went outside, Gurim quickly recognized the place and urgently told Chaya to run. Down in the hall, they saw Father standing with a crowd. Chaya also recognized him and muttered that Yunsu had been hanging out with her while things were this bad. Hearing this, Gurim grew confused. Why was she talking as if Yunsu was still alive? He was about to ask when he noticed that Father was looking straight at them. He told Chaya to quickly teleport back to the room they had come from and disappeared before Chaya could explain that she didn't know how to teleport yet. Back inside the room, Garim noticed that Gamino had vanished. Gamino was trying to escape because if Father found out he had failed his mission, he would be killed too. Suddenly, someone grabbed him from behind. It was Yunsu, who coldly questioned what he was doing there. He asked who had helped him pull out the knife, and Jimino replied that it was Han Chea and Gurim, and that now they were both inside the castle. Yunsu realized that Leo had lied to him and ordered Jimino to take him inside the castle. On their way, Yunsu saw some guests and attacked them to steal their clothes and blend in. They had to enter through the main gate because teleporting could alert Father and ruin everything. At the entrance, every guest was required to drink blood. Yunsu grew suspicious, but Gemino reassured him, saying it was just a tradition, no one had ever died from it, and urged him to hurry since Chea and Gurum might be in danger. Left with no choice, Yunsu drank it. Inside, Gemino pointed out the room where they had last been. Yunsu tried to teleport there quietly, but failed. At the entrance, the blood they had drunk contained that of a hybrid, which made vampires unable to teleport. Jimino, knowing that even if Yunsu found Chaya and Gerim, he wouldn't let him go, decided to create a distraction. Having overheard their conversation earlier, he suddenly shouted loudly that Gurim's blood could turn vampires into humans. Instantly, everyone's attention snapped to them, and Gemino even described Gurim's appearance. The crowd began frantically searching for Gurim. Before Yunsu could even process what was happening, he turned, and there stood Gurim, while all the other guests' eyes fixed on him as well. Meanwhile, the main dinner was about to start. In the past, Father had been the general of an army that was on the verge of defeat. Only a few people on his side had survived, but he had decided he would not let them die. And today, those very same people, his old comrades, were the ones attending this special dinner. They all pretended to get along and show care for Father, but he knew that deep down, they wanted to get rid of him. Rose was the only one he wasn't sure about. He couldn't tell which side she was on. He raised his glass, thinking that he would find out soon enough. Meanwhile, in the hall, vampires were trying to capture Gurim because of his ability. Even though Yunsu wasn't sure if he could fight so many of them, he attacked to give Gurim a chance to flee. Gurim didn't want to leave, not after finding out that Yunsu was alive, but he had no choice, while Yunsu was overwhelmed by the attacking vampires. On the other hand, in response to Father's toast, no one raised their glasses. Rose thought to herself that this was only the beginning. Earlier that morning, Leo had gone to meet Rose, despite her instructions in the letter telling him to head to the private room. He angrily asked her what she was planning to do. When she refused to answer, he revealed that Gurim was also in the castle. Rose was shocked but told Leo to take care of Gurim. After that, she asked him to make a promise. Leo refused, reminding her that Gurim had attacked him last time. That was what he got for trying to help. He demanded to know why she even cared about Gurim so much. Rose told him, Gurim, I will save everyone. But Leo told her not to care about anyone else. Why couldn't she just look at him? Rose thought to herself that she wouldn't be swayed by such a weak confession. She wanted to kiss him, but that would mean too much. So instead, she kissed him gently on the forehead. Then she turned to leave, telling him that she would give him a chance to attack Father. She had already informed the guests at the dinner party that the appetizer this time was vampire blood. That was why none of them had picked up their glasses. Father, now angry, asked if they all truly believed the words of some unknown stranger. At that moment, someone in the crowd asked him why he couldn't see the knife floating on his left. Rose had also revealed something she had quietly observed, that Father was now blind in his left eye. The knife struck Father, drawing blood. The guests all froze. This confirmed that the information in the letter had been true. In the past, during a losing battle, General Gray had made a decision. He told his remaining men that he would go into the forest. Some hesitated, warning that it was the same forest rumored to be home to a witch. But Gray told them they were free to stay behind and fight the enemy in their current weakened state if they preferred. In the end, they all chose to follow him. The forest was dense, a twisting maze that disoriented even the most seasoned soldiers. Then suddenly, General Gray vanished. The rest of them continued on, wandering for days. The forest seemed to wait for them to collapse. Eventually, they could walk no further, and it was then that Gray reappeared. But something had changed. His once blue eyes had turned yellow. They followed him again, and this time, under his lead, they won the war. Later, they all received the same powers as him by drinking his blood. But even after all these years, not one of them had managed to surpass him. Rose watched as Father defeated each of his old comrades one by one. She handled the last one herself. Afterward, she approached Father and suggested they leave before more vampires arrived. She had already told Leo to come to the quarters once he heard a commotion at the party. Now, pretending to be concerned for Father's safety, she led him to the quarters, assuring him no one would come there, while Leo was already on his way. On his way to the quarters, Leo ran into Gemino, who tried to block his path. Gemino warned him not to go to Rose, insisting that he meant nothing to her, that she only offered him sympathy to soothe her own guilt. But Leo brushed him off, saying it didn't matter. He pushed past Gemino and continued on. Meanwhile, inside the quarters, Rose handed Father a glass of blood, urging him to drink it and recover quickly. But he eyed her with suspicion. He reminded her that he has only been living in the castle after losing sight in his left eye. Then, asked directly if this was all part of her conspiracy. Just then, Leo burst into the room, weapon in hand, poised to strike. But before he could attack, Rose turned and grabbed his weapon and used it against him. Leo collapsed to the ground. Rose turned to Father and said in a steady voice, "It seems Leo was the one who told everyone about your weakness." Father asked if she was all right, as he'll resent her once he wakes up, when he's the one she loves. Rose replied that it was all right while tears flowed down her cheeks. She thought to herself that that's why it has to be Leo. Father knew she loved him, and now he will fully trust her and drink that blood. In the past, when Father had separated from his subordinates, he felt as though he was on the verge of death. That was when he encountered the witch who lived in the forest. He asked her for a way out, but she replied that he could not leave because he was already dead. Terrified of such an end and the darkness that loomed ahead, he placed his sword at her neck and demanded that she perform some kind of sorcery to save him. The method didn't matter to him. He just wanted to live. The witch warned him that he would regret it, but he insisted. So she asked him to make a promise first. After she brought him back to life, he must never come looking for her again. Gray replied that it was an easy promise to make and agreed without hesitation. Then the witch decided to give him her powers, saying she was bored of them anyway. She bit his neck, and after that, he turned into a vampire. He returned to his subordinates, overwhelmed by thirst, but decided against feeding on his own people. Later, when they encountered enemy troops, Gray defeated them all. His power was inhuman, and he found blood delicious. That was when he began to wonder, what if their enemies ever got hold of the same power? So he went back to the witch, who seemed unsurprised by his return. He asked what she had gained by giving him those powers. She replied that now as a human being, she had gained peace. But Gray attacked her and her head fell to the ground. As she lay dying, she reminded him that this was why she had told him never to return. He had broken their promise, and her blood would curse anyone who had it on their hands. His immortality was perfect, but his betrayal had cracked it. She foretold that his death would come from the blood of his fellow creatures, and a promise. After that, Gray lived for a long time as an immortal, drunk on victory in countless battles. He had become a different, inhuman entity, frozen in time like a painting, year after year. Then he met a woman named Diana, and for the first time he felt the joy of being human, the pleasant sound of laughter, the warmth. One day, Diana asked young Rose what she thought of the painting in front of them. Rose replied that it seemed incomplete, as there were still white spaces left in it. Diana explained that a painting is only complete when the artist decides it to be, and so is life. Some people close their eyes happily when they die, while others continue to live incomplete lives. Rose asked if that made them miserable. Diana went quiet, then muttered that it wasn't so terrible to live that way, but dying incomplete did make her feel a little miserable. Diana offered her blood to Gray from time to time. When he asked if she wasn't afraid of him, she replied that she wasn't. She added that he must have been terribly lonely in the endlessness of being incomplete. Gray thought that she understood him so well. It was as if she had once been immortal herself. If only he could become human again and breathe beside her. Meanwhile, Diana thought to herself that she had been waiting for him to fall in love with her completely. Then one night, Gray heard Rose's voice calling for him and woke up, only to find Diana standing on the balcony railing with Rose by her side. She asked if she had finally become his reason to live, and if Rose had also become essential to him. Gray begged her to come down, but she asked if he hadn't recognized her yet, adding that it had been so long. It was then that Gray finally realized she was the witch from the forest. He couldn't believe it and asked if she had approached him knowingly. She laughed and mocked him, saying that after suffering alone for so long, he had finally met the one who understood him, only for it all to be a lie that he believed to be the truth. He asked her if she had never loved him, not even for a moment. Diana held Rose tightly and jumped from the balcony, saying that she had never loved him. He quickly leapt after them and saved them from hitting the ground. Then he asked if she had spent her entire human life living a lie. Did she feel nothing for him and Rose? She told him that she was a monster born from envy, love, and hatred. She had wanted to become human, so she transferred her powers to him, but he ended her life. After that, her soul could not rest and longed for revenge, but now he spoke of wanting to be human again. She took Rose in her arms, saying that he had never stopped being selfish. This was not the human life she had wished for, and now she wanted her soul to rest in peace with the death of his wife Diana and his daughter Rose. Then Rose called out to her with tears in her eyes. In that moment, Diana's hands trembled and she realized she could not go through with it. So instead, she only attacked herself, saying that it was a pity. She could have had her revenge. As she fell to the ground, she told Gray not to even dare to try becoming human again, that he never would be one. After that, she passed away. Gray promised that he would never become human. He remembered her words from the past, that his death would come from a promise and the blood of his fellow creatures. Now, in the present, he asked Rose to exchange their glasses. Rose did as he asked. They had lived a long time together and could sense what the other was thinking to a certain extent. At that moment, he wanted Rose to drink from her cup first to prove that it wasn't poisoned. Only after she drank did he drink his as well. Even after drinking it, his bleeding did not stop. Rose told him that he had been her entire life. They had lived together for a century, and needing a reason to love him would be ridiculous. She had never had a choice, and so she forgave him, even if no one else could. And thus, as he had once wished, she would return him to his human form. Father was shocked, but replied that he knew the scent of Giram's blood, and his cup had not smelled like it. Rose remembered that when her mother passed away, she couldn't resist the strong smell of blood and ended up drinking some. Father had stopped her and noticed that she had grown after drinking it. That was the first time he realized Rose was not human. She'd been traumatized and cried for him to make the smell go away. That was when Father discovered the existence of half-bloods and began conducting experiments on them. But he never laid a finger on her or her blood. Still, she had to carry the burden of loving him and the guilt of what happened to those children, which made her miserable. But because of all this, he never found out the ability she had gained that day. She had no scent. She could take away others' sense of smell and any scent at all. Only she could have made him drink Giram's blood. And now, having aged, she asked him, hadn't they lived long enough? She had always wondered what Father would look like at the moment of her death, wanting to know if he truly loved her. And what a relief it was. He did. On the brink of her death, she remembered Leo, still unconscious. She went to him and wondered what kind of memory she would be to him. Then she thought, if she wanted that answer to be something beautiful, she should have kissed him back then. So now she finally kissed him. But when he opened his eyes, all he could see was dust. Rose was no longer in the room. At first, Leo wondered why she had done that to him. But then, as he looked around the room, he slowly began to realize what had just happened. He turned to Father and asked if it was true, but Father only stared back at him, his face twisted in anger. Leo noticed the aimless rage in his eyes and wondered what could have caused it. No, he didn't want to know. The feeling that crept over him was painfully familiar, just like the one he had felt during the experiments. Wishing it wasn't true, he showed Father a hallucination, an image of Rose still alive. Without hesitation, Father followed the illusion out of the room. Leo, still unwilling to accept the truth, teleported to Rose's room. It was empty. There, he found the letter she had written for him and crushed it in his hand with trembling anger. He remembered her words that she would save everyone. But now all he could think was, how? How was she going to save anyone now? Father would avenge her death by destroying everyone. How was she going to protect them when she was no longer here? Meanwhile, back in the midst of the battle, Yunsu caught a glimpse of Chea through a hole in the wall. Back when Chea had been left alone, someone called for the guards because teleportation was not allowed at the party. In a panic, she teleported, ending up in an unknown place. Meanwhile, Gurim was searching for her when he ran into Yunsu. Now, Chea saw Yunsu too. She asked what he was doing there, and he asked her the same. He was still in the middle of fighting. At first, she thought it wasn't her business, but when she saw several people attacking him at once, her body reacted on its own. She jumped in to help him. Yunsu grabbed her and told her to teleport them both out of there. She tried to explain that she didn't know how, but he pointed to the people charging at them. With no time to think, she acted on instinct and teleported them. They ended up in a tiny enclosed space. He asked how she managed to find him. Did she follow his scent? Chea argued that there was no way she could pick out his smell in this crowd. He replied that she should be able to since she'd smelled him enough yesterday. And just like that, the two of them started bickering again. Then, after a long, awkward silence, Yunsu asked why she kept coming back to him. Did she enjoy watching others suffer? She answered that she didn't. Instead, she had learned that Gerum's blood could make her human again. He reacted with mild surprise, saying it was boring that she found out so quickly. Chaya responded that she knew he wanted her to stay with him forever as a vampire, but did he really think she would be happy that way? All those centuries he had lived, was he ever truly happy? In his imagination, was she smiling by his side? Yunsu had to admit that in those countless daydreams she never smiled, but the thing was, what if he didn't care? He suggested they play a game. Whoever found Gurim first would win. If he found him first, he would leave immediately, whether she was with him or not. And if she didn't want to play, she could just stay with him forever. Chaya stepped out of the wardrobe and agreed to play, while Yunsu wished her luck. A man had been chasing Gurim ever since the chaos broke out, and Gurim began to wonder if running away had truly been the right choice. So finally he stopped. The man attacked him, and Gurim let it happen. As the precious blood spilled and began to go to waste, the man frantically drank it. But the moment he did, he aged rapidly and died on the spot. Just after that, Yunsu arrived and found Gurim. He was injured, and Yunsu supported him to his feet. Seeing his condition, Yunsu wondered whether Gurim needed human blood to recover, but he also knew that would cause Gurim to age. A storm of thoughts swirled in his mind until Gurim snapped him out of it, telling him to rest first. Then Gurim asked what had taken Yunsu so long to come find him. He went on to say that he had lived his entire life as a child, but now that he had become an adult, he realized just how well Yunsu had raised him. Yunsu was about to bring up Gurim's father, but Gurim cut him off. He said they should leave him behind. Despite how deeply he had hurt them both, they still had to go on living, so he told Yunsu to let go of Sion. It struck Yunsu then that all this time it was him who couldn't let go. After this, Gurim filled a vial with his blood and handed it to Yunsu, telling him to give it to Chea. He added that Yunsu should let her go now. From the beginning, they had been doomed. There was an astronomical wall between vampires and humans. They simply could not coexist, and the one who might break that wall couldn't be him, a vampire. It had to be Han Chea, but she never would. Yunsu stood up and said that they needed to get out of there. Girim asked, "What about Chea?" To which Yunsu replied that, unfortunately, she had lost the game. She never stood a chance in the first place. He could always track Girim's blood. As they were leaving, Yunsu looked back and quietly wished her luck escaping on her own. Meanwhile, at that very moment, Chea was backed into a corner by Father, who had mistaken her for Rose. Chea tried to explain that she wasn't Rose, but Father, seeing Rose in her, hugged her tightly, saying he'd had a terrible dream, and thank God it had only been a dream. Chea pushed him away, and in the process, his hand accidentally scratched hers. At that moment, Gerim and Yunsu sensed it immediately. Gurim asked if it was really okay to leave her like that, but Yunsu replied that he was only doing what Gurim had asked. He was letting go of her, so she had nothing to do with him anymore. Right now, Chea was standing on a railing, with Father holding onto her hand to keep her from falling. But in that moment, Father saw Diana in her place, and so he let go. Chea fell, but before she hit the ground, Yunsu caught her. He asked why she always forgot that she could teleport. Father had also teleported there, appearing right before them. The moment he saw Yunsu, he grabbed him by the neck and slammed him into a tree. Why are he still alive? Did Leo lie to he? He asked angrily, adding that he allowed those vermin to live, and this is how they repay him? Gurim tried to intervene, but Father threw him aside with one hand. He looked at Gurim, bewildered. "What exactly are you?" he demanded. With an ability like that, it's as if he was born to replace him. He wondered if this was part of Diana's revenge plot. Just as he was about to strike Gurim again, Leo appeared and stopped his hand. A cut immediately appeared on Leo's hand, because Chea's presence there meant he had broken his promise to stay away and never get involved with her. Earlier, Leo had burned Rose's letter, and with it, the mansion too. On his way out, he ran into Gemino, who tried to stop him, but Leo simply asked him to use his powers and tell him where Gurim was. Gemino replied that the more he used his powers, the more his eyesight deteriorated. Still, seeing how determined Leo was, he relented and helped him. As Leo left, Gemino caught a glimpse of the future, one where Leo would die if he went through with this, but it was already too late to stop him. Saving Gerim had been Rose's last wish, and Leo had to fulfill it, even if it cost him his life. At first, Leo was overpowering Father, but then, without warning, Father grabbed him and hurled him into a tree beside Yunsu. Leo's hand had already begun to disintegrate from breaking his promise to Chea. Yunsu urged Leo to take Gurim and teleport far away. As Yunsu ran toward Father, Leo turned and ran toward Gurim. Father struck Yunsu hard in the stomach, but to help Yunsu one last time, Leo undid his hallucination on Father. As soon as the realization came to him, we saw that he had grown old too. While he was still taken aback, Chea quickly rushed to Yunsu, who had been badly injured by Father. Leo also understood immediately that Rose must have put Gurim's blood in both cups. Gurim asked Leo if they would survive, and Leo told him to say his goodbyes. Gurim realized that they were being split apart again, but this time he thought he would come find them. Father saw this and started approaching, but Gemino appeared and grabbed him by the leg. Father kicked him hard, but before he could reach them, Leo and Gurim had already disappeared. Now Father was furious with Gemino. Gemino tried to run, but Father stepped on him. He knew this would happen, especially when he saw that even Chea and Yunsu had left him behind. It was only natural for everyone to value their lives above all else, so what was wrong with him today? Father asked him if he could predict the future, mocking that he had failed to foresee his own death. Gemino, having used his powers too much, couldn't even see Father's face clearly anymore. He replied that he still hadn't seen a future where he died at his hands. Father punched him one last time and walked away. Lying there, Gemino thought how pathetic it was that he could see the future but not even the grass right in front of his eyes. His reality was filled with darkness, but the future he saw was all too clear. He pulled something from his pocket and laid it gently on the grass, thinking that now he finally knew what he had to do. How strange, he reflected. He had tried so hard to survive, but now he felt at peace. The fire was spreading through the castle, and Yunsu and Chaya were now in the outer forest. Yunsu's condition had worsened, and they hadn't even made it that far from the castle. He told her to let go for now and thought to himself that even when Rose had injured father, he hadn't been able to defeat him. Even if Chea became human and he drank her blood to recover, there was no guarantee he could end father. In fact, father would likely drink her blood first and recover instead. Chea asked if he was all right, and Yunsu thought that he had known this would happen. Strangely, he felt at ease, more so than when he had been desperately trying to hold on to her. He asked her to have one last dance with him. Chea asked if he was out of his mind, to which he replied, "Indeed, I am over you." He wondered when it had all started. At first, he had always tried to scare her, but at some point she had stopped getting flustered. She replied that he was the one who got flustered. Hearing that, he hugged her and said, "That must have been when I fell in love with you." She asked if he regretted starting off on the wrong foot, but he said he didn't. Chaya said she didn't either. This was the best they could do, and they could never change. Then he handed her Girim's blood and told her to leave. He added that he actually didn't care whether she was a vampire or not. It was just that he had always been happiest with her by his side. His endless life had gained meaning because of her. He reminded her that she had once said she would leave him one day, and thanked her for waiting. Because now, finally, it was time. Chaya was shocked to hear this. Why did he sound like he was about to die? He could just drink her blood and recover. But Yunsu told her that vampire blood is fatal to other vampires. She offered to become human again first, but Yunsu told her that wouldn't work either, not with father still around. He told her to leave, but she replied that she still couldn't teleport. So he pushed her toward the edge of the pond, telling her to imagine getting away from him. Then he let go of her hand, saying she should think of him as just another passing misfortune. As she was about to touch the water, she teleported. Yunsu was left standing alone, while Chaya had unfortunately reappeared in the castle courtyard. But then she noticed a silver knife lying on the grass. It was the same one Gemino had used on Gurim, meaning it had Gurim's blood on it. In fact, it was the very knife she had once stolen from Leo's house. She was alive, and she needed to get far away from there. But as she was walking away, all she could think about was Yunsu. Right now, by the pond, Yunsu was being choked by father. Father told him he should never have let him live all those years ago. Because he had let Sion live, Sion had Gurim, and Gurim's blood ended Rose. To think he had raised him without knowing what he would become, how pathetic. Yunsu replied that he hadn't known father had ended his mother either. He drank his blood, called him father, and obeyed him. So that makes them even. He thought that if he just had a bit more strength, he might have been able to survive, as father held him down and began to drown him in the water. At that moment, Chea sensed Yunsu's blood, and she could no longer ignore her feelings. She ran toward him, focusing only on the scent of his blood, and this time her teleportation worked. She reappeared just behind father and attacked him with the silver knife, thinking that perhaps they really were tethered together by something unbreakable. Father had turned around, so the knife went straight into his chest. He collapsed to the ground and saw that Chea had become a vampire. He tried to grab her by the neck, snarling that he should have ended her when she was still human. Then, as if something dawned on him, he remembered Diana's words and began to laugh. To think that a mere human girl would be the one to end him, how ridiculous he must look. In truth, he had feared death more than anything. That fear had consumed him. So much so that when he learned of Geirim's blood, he'd tried to eliminate everyone who could pose a threat. He, a vampire, a harbinger of death, had spent his life trying to escape it. And now, with a strange, almost peaceful smile, he thought, perhaps he was just another human after all, one who feared death like the rest. In his final moments, it was Rose he saw. She had come to take him, and then his body disintegrated into dust. After that, Chaya noticed the scent of blood in the water. It reeked of Yunsu's blood. That meant he must be inside. She drank Gurim's blood, thinking that even Yunsu wanted her to be human again. Then, without hesitation, she jumped into the water and swam toward him, holding him up to keep him from sinking further. She bit her lip and fed him her blood. Just like that, he woke up, his strength returning. The two of them emerged from the water and collapsed on the shore. Yunsu congratulated her for becoming human again. She congratulated him back for staying alive. He admitted that, yes, he had come close to death and then asked if she was into seeing him at his lowest. Was that why he looked so pathetic around her? Was that his way of flirting? Chaya shot back. Is it working? Yunsu asked. It is, Chaya replied. Yunsu couldn't help but smile. Their struggle to outwit each other, he thought, would probably go on forever.